going to host a couple of very key industries that will have significant macroeconomic impact in the country. The key anchor projects are really three. The second international airport, which is pretty much close to completion. I believe you saw that when you visited. The second one is what I mentioned earlier, the crude export hub. And then the third one is the Uganda refinery. Of course, there will be other industries like the fertilizer, petrochemicals, industrial gases, cold chain for agro processing, warehousing and logistics that will all come to support the industry and be housed within the park. Next slide. So just to give you a status, especially on the areas that we take lead on, I think the pictures to the left speak for themselves. That was the construction of the second international airport at the early stages, and then the picture at the bottom is when the airport was tested in March 2024. And you can see the runway is already lit, and I think the projection from CA is that this airport will be up and running by, is it Q3 next year? I think Q3 2025. The other elements that relates to UNOC's scope, Honourable Minister, in relation to the park is that we have a master plan for the park that was approved. The slide that you saw previously showed the schematic of that master plan. We also have the land allocation policy that has been finalized, and Honourable Minister, as you may be aware, we did, the Honourable Minister made a presentation in Cabinet, and we have an action that we took to present the service rates that will be applicable for this park in Cabinet again. And we anticipate that this will be done in the very near future. The strategic ESI for the park was completed, and we are currently negotiating with a joint venture partner. I did mention earlier, Kuoga of South Africa, that we hope we'll be working with to jointly develop and manage the park. Currently, we are working on our minister to ensure that we put in place what we call enabling infrastructure to attract investment in the park, and this is largely around road network within the park, fencing, security fencing for the park, power recognition, ICT, wastewater management, and things like that.
We're so grateful that the ECOPs have made some progress on the side of Uganda. I wonder whether there's some good progress taking place from the side of Tanzania in terms of developing the pipeline. You are telling us that the contract has already been signed. I don't know.
We're currently working under an MOU. Like I indicated, we are negotiating now the key commercial agreements, the implementation agreement, the shareholders agreement for the refinery company, and the crude supply agreement.
So we should have hope that the refinery will be established.
So the negotiations are ongoing, and that gives us hope. Because
now, which agreement have you signed?
At the time we commenced this discussion, in the first quarter of this year, we exchanged documents, and you will notice that not all the two parties move at the same pace. While as government of Uganda, we want to move fast so that the project is realized quicker. Along the way, you discover sometimes that it takes a bit of time for the private sector player to fit back in on certain position. So our expectation as a company that we're all interested in this project is that by Q1 2025, we should be done with the commercial agreements for the refinery, and that should facilitate us taking final investment decision later in 2025. Q2
and what part of has terms of reference, including the time frame, to facilitate this negotiation?
Memorandum of understanding has, but as you will appreciate, Honourable Minister, sometimes because of external factors, when the private sector colleagues make a request to make certain extensions, because you're committed as government to see that the project succeeds, you have no option but to provide certain flexibilities.
We were also told that there are other negative energy, and outstanding factors.
Okay. Would you, like you said, away from the camera, do you want to be a bit more specific so that we can understand? Okay.
Something unique about Benson, not only is he our beloved CEO for East Africa, he is the son of the soil. He dedicated his time, defined the direction of treatment to Uganda. A majority of the younger people, the younger luminae here, went through his hands. And he told me,
And then finally in the midstream, we have the Kabalega Industrial Park, which you visited, Honorable Minister. And we are glad that you visited the industrial park. The industrial park is very central to our upstream and midstream development, and I'll speak to that a little later. So in the industrial park, we intend to hold controlling majority in the park. Then finally, the last two projects to the top right are the downstream projects, which relates to the subject matter for this meeting, Honorable Minister. So we have interest in the petroleum product storage terminals, starting with Ginger Storage Terminal, which we normally abbreviate as GST. Ginger Storage Terminal is a 30 million litre storage facility, and UNOC currently holds 100% interest in that terminal. The other terminal is the Kampala Storage Terminal, which is still a project at concept stage, and we plan to build that terminal to have a capacity of 320 million litres. And in the KST, we intend to hold again 50. In the downstream, we have bulk trading, which speaks to the sole importation mandate that we now have as a company to import all the petroleum product demand. We have a contractual arrangement with Vitol Bahrain, Vitol Bahrain, to supply all the petrol that supply in July, and as we speak now, we are supplying the entire national demand for petrol, diesel, kerosene, and jet fuel. So I already mentioned our staffing levels, but under the net revenue of about $9 billion over the life cycle of the projects, and that's speaking to about 25 years. And in terms of size, that would be comparable to very few oil and gas companies globally, and that's our outlook on who we want to be as a national company. Next slide. So this slide is really to highlight our global footprint in terms of the companies or entities that we have collaboration. In South Africa, we are currently engaged in exhaustive sites. We have covered pretty much all of the projects. Now, I'll let you move just in steps and do this. So we'll start from the middle. Honorable Minister, is the Kabalega Industrial Park, the crude that is coming out of the upstream. And the construction of the hub has already commenced. And so, if I now move to it, you may be aware the pipeline runs a distance of about 1,443 kilometers, and only about 296 kilometers is in Uganda. The rest of the distance is in Tanzania. And there's a lot of progress that has been made. The products that are imported from through Kenya, especially, initially that has been where we were piloting our bulk trading of petroleum products until the sole mandate was activated in November last year. So that pretty much summarizes the development strategy of our oil and gas resources in the country. Next slide, that you may have visited, sits or is located in the southeastern shores of Lake Albert. The red circle there really is showing us the location of the Kingfisher field. And in terms of characteristics of the field, this is a field that we intend to produce about 186 million barrels of 2P reserves. 2P reserves essentially just means the reserves or the oil in the reservoir that is most probable to be produced out of the ground. But Kingfisher will be 40,000 barrels of oil per day, and the field will be produced by 31 wells that are all going to be drilled from 4 well pads. And I want to believe that you may have seen the well pads as when you visited. So within the field, there will be just about 19 kilometers of inflow pipelines that will connect with, that will deliver crude from each well pad to the central processing facility. The contract arrangement that requires the international players, Total and Sina, to pay our cost of development until the first oil is delivered. Commence development drilling the 31 wells in January last year, and as we speak now, Honorable Minister, 12 of the 31 wells that are planned to be drilled to develop this field have been drilled and completed. And in terms of the field development planning, we only require 11 wells to be ready to commence production at first oil. So we are pretty much already there in terms of what we require to deliver first oil. And in terms of its construction, we are already at 82%. So there is significant progress in terms of where we are. We will be ready for startup by December 2025. And we is an aerial picture of the Kingfisher Valley, showing you in the middle of the picture where the Tilenga. Can you go to the next slide? So in terms of location, let's just step up. Okay, it's fine. In terms of location, Tilenga, the Tilenga project is located in the northeastern edge of Lake Albert, the red circle that you see there. Geographically, it is distributed on either side of the Victoria Nile, in Lower District and in Bulisa District. And it's a very bigger project compared to the Kingfisher. And here we are planning to develop up to 874 million barrels of 2P reserves. And the CPF will have a capacity of 190,000 barrels of oil per day. Now, this development will see us sinking up to about 426 development wells. Now, development wells of 3 categories. Some are producers, the ones that will be producing oil from the ground to the surface. Others are injectors, what we call water injectors. We will also be injecting water to support the reservoir pressures so that we can continue to produce from these fields. And others are observation wells and monitoring wells because inflow flow and stream move from Victoria. The lower picture shows you that right of way for the inflow. Next slide. Then finally, the status of the CPF, the Tilenga. We are currently at 52% on average. Of course, the percentages, the specific percentages for engineering state and construction status vary. But just to show you the activities that are going on in the field, the picture to the right shows the status of the progress of the activities around construction of the CPF for the Tilenga has already been delivered on site. And the picture on the top left is really showing the construction camp at Tilenga. Where we have footprints in as a national company is the Kasurbani contract area. Now, Kasurbani contract area is that red polygon that you see, especially the refinery and the pipeline. We found it important for us to venture into exploration space and begin to process of sustainability of the midstream projects. And so we did participate in the countries of the other international players, and in February 2023, February last year. And we have undertaken quite a number of studies, technical studies. We have also undertaken what we call the processing of some of the 2D seismic data. Seismic data is the primary data that we use as geoscientists to guide you on where to propose either an exploratory drilling, an exploratory well or an appraisal well. And so,
are you using our local staff or are you using consultants still from the Western world?
so we have the way the industry works in terms of how operators deliver projects is that the operators don't deliver projects single-handedly as a company, but they deliver projects through contracting and subcontracting to what we call service companies. Yes, and that's why you see, although Total is the operator of Tilenga, when you go down to the Tilenga project, you see the projects are being delivered by contractors like Magdeburg, Sinopec, and all the things. So the service companies are specialists in delivering the components of the projects. And so we, as an operator, the operator develops the concept, the design, the project development strategy, and then packages the different components of the projects into elements or units that can then be delivered by service providers. So internally here as a company, we have technical staff that do the planning, the sourcing of any technical service that is required, and reporting to the regulator, getting all the necessary approvals from the regulator. So this is the block that the PU directly regulates us. So it is largely located in Bulisa, but part of it is located in Hoima, and a little bit of it in Masinde. Yeah. And as you can see from the map, it's a block that sits directly to the south of the Tilenga fields. The green that you see there is a Tilenga field. So if you follow the road that goes down the Bulisa Valley, on the escarpment, I think the key scenery there is the EPTF training unit in the valley. So all that area from the escarpment, looking into the lake, and pretty much about 15 to 20 kilometers south of Bulisa town, constitute the Kasongoni contract. Yeah. So currently we are undertaking technical studies, seismic studies. We like I said, we're also doing the processing of some of the seismic data to enable us to better image the subsurface. But we are also in the process of acquiring additional 2D seismic data in that block, especially in areas where you see a bit of sparse data grid, so that we can be able to better image the structures that are in the subsurface and propose an exploratory drilling well for the regulator. Next slide. So then I will now move to the midstream, which is the next part of the value chain. And I will speak very briefly about the project. So starting with Econ. Next slide. So
the pipeline is midstream.
Sorry?
The pipeline.
So the pipeline that now exports the stabilized crude is midstream. But the pipeline that moves crude from one field to another to the central processing facility is part of upstream. Yeah. So the Eastern Crude Oil Pipeline project is in the midstream, and as a company we hold 15% shareholding in this project. 62% of the shares is held by Total Energies. Sinopec holds 8%, and Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation holds the remaining 15%. In terms of progress, Honorable Minister, some of the pictures here shows the developments in the construction of the pipeline. Significant progress has been made in terms of detailed engineering works, pumping stations, and 2 pressure reduction stations. The pumping stations are really meant to ensure that, remember last year, for the installation work to begin, and as we speak now, we have now received up to 700 kilometers of line pipe of the 1,443. And that really speaks to the progress of the construction works. So in terms of overall progress, Honourable Minister, the construction of the Eco pipeline currently stands at 35.9% as of end of September. And although we are seeing some delays, our hands are still on to ensure that we achieve ready for startup by Q4 2025. The next slide. The next slide speaks to the refinery project, and just to, again...
Because we were told from the other side that they are going to extend the pipeline.
To touch on other aspects as well. A big national discussion that culminated into a memorandum of understanding that was signed between the upstream private sector developers and government of Uganda. Just before the companies submitted to government the field development plans, the plans on how the fields will be developed, 1,046 barrels. Now, in terms of that as a feedstock to ensure the commercial viability of both the ECOP and the refinery, it is. Our commercial analyst, and I'm afraid our chief commercial officer is not here, and the rest of the government team that looked at the field development plan that was eventually approved by the minister, for us as government to ensure that our refinery project, which is very dear to us, does not lag too much. So that it's also up and running in good time when production starts. The primary reason why we ventured into exploration is to ensure that we start looking out for new reserves to support these midstream projects that we are heavily investing in as a country. And we did feasibility studies on 3 routes. The key thing is that for the private sector players and for us who are investing in the project, we wanted a route that was the most least cost route in terms of capital expenditure that will be required, but also operating cost over the life of the project. Maybe Honourable Minister, as we respond to that, allow me to just...
You the question, you respond in writing.
Okay.
Most of the question. Because I expect a technical response from a technical politician, but I've met with the technical team, and the report we are going to give out, it is a technical report. So some of these questions, if you're not very sure, at least you consult and give us the right information, because this report is going far, and it will also inform government decisions. So we need clear information from you. Okay, you can continue responding, but I think we need a written responses from you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Just shedding some lights on the delays that we have hinted in respect to the development of the ECOP and how we see ourselves mitigating this delay. Engineer, would you want to touch on this? The delays in ECOP and how we intend to mitigate the delays.
Especially on the project. So that one really caused a lot of issues, especially on closing up the financial issues. But all the same, the ministry, together with government, we are trying as much as possible to have the financial flows by December. We should have the financial flows. Of course, some of the delays were caused by the wars, international wars. Some of the things were beyond the project. But all the same, we are trying as much as possible to make sure that we meet the deadline of having people up and running by 2025.
Progress of 35.9% by Econ. Do you think we shall still produce our first oil by 2025?
Honourable Minister, I believe that we are going to meet that deadline because, as the CEO said, the acting CEO said, already we have and are being quoted. They are going to construct it, they will lot it such that you'll have a team along the road. So I think we still believe that we are going to meet that deadline.
What is the progress like from the side of Tanzania?
Yeah, of course, the truth is that on the Tanzanian side, of course, the land has already been acquired, and there is a lot of work, especially for the terminal. A lot of work is being done, and we expect that definitely. Let me just check on the pipes, the tanks. But a lot of work has been done from that side. Currently, most of the things that they are doing, they are trying to work on the camps. The camps where people will be staying, and the yards for storing the materials. But what we believe is that once the materials are in place, they should be able to start the construction as fast as possible. But the other side, the export side, at least that one, they have already done some good work. Maybe in future, you might want also to go and have a look at the work that's currently ongoing that side.
Yeah, my brother, he said, and again on that, the same point before I respond. He's talking about the financial clause. I thought this solved the bid because they are controlling mainly all
percentage in terms of progress. Now, the project is structured on a 60% debt, 40% equity. Now, so far until to date, we have been implementing or constructing this project using equity component of the capital requirement. The 40%, yes. Now, there's been a lot of discussion and ongoing discussion with the financial institutions, especially the Chinese lenders, to close out the discussion on providing debt, the 60% to the project, to now allow completion of the rest of the construction. And I think that is the delay that we had hinted on, that we had anticipated that financial close should have been achieved already. But somehow it has still dragged on. And I think my colleague highlighted some of the reasons that some of the financial institutions have become lukewarm because of the noise they hear globally, on environmental concerns and all that thing. And I think they have also gone further to now target the Chinese investors that had provided the biggest commitment to the project. Yeah, the initial noise, of course, in terms of logistics, previously, until we started, we opened up GST to the private investors. The different OMCs had their small storage facilities, wherever they are. I think Vivo had theirs somewhere in 7th Street or something, Total, and so on and so on. because they are now moving away and trying to empty their storage facilities in the regions of the ministry. So first, like I hinted, under the sole importation mandate, we have made a commitment to ensure that GST as a storage terminal is connected to the lake, so that we are able to receive products through the lake and remove the burden that we have on the road through road transportation from Kisumu and Uganda. In business that we do, we see that once we pass on the title for the products, petrol and diesel, to the OMCs in Kisumu and Eldoret, they either deliver it straight to their distribution terminals or to their storage facilities within the city. Yeah, and some to our ginger storage facility. We are also aware that there's a facility was an instrument that now gives the sole hands over to UNOC the sole mandate to import all the petroleum product requirements for Uganda. But before, UNOC as an oil company, Total as an oil company, Viva as an oil company, had the rights to import products to meet their demand. So we took the route of importing in bulk and selling to them, and not opening up our downstream pump stations. So we were importing, and once we get the products in country, we then sell to them in bulk, and then they put in their pump stations. So that's the law. It was a pilot, yeah. So it was a pilot project that we started, largely because we anticipate products to be coming from the refinery once a refinery is up and running, and that would mean that we needed to build capacity to trade in petroleum products. So that is the perspective from which we started as a company.
But because we see the pump price it was then and how it is now.
Around, I think we'll cover the extent to which these activities have impacted the pump prices on that. But maybe for purposes of this meeting, just to highlight that generally, although we see a reduction in pump prices when you move around the city, price at which we give them these products. And so we expected that the prices should be low. I want to believe that you've heard the Honourable Minister of Energy expressing concerns as well why the OMCs are not reflecting that advantage that we give them in pump prices. Now the simple reason, of course, is that our downstream market is liberalized. We do not regulate the pump prices. The ministry does not regulate the pump prices. The pump price is determined by factors of demand and supply. We still look up to the ministry.
But you control the supply.
We control the supply.
The supply side?
Yes.
So the demand, I don't know.
So the demand should be responding to the prices that we give them.
Demand and operating costs.
Yeah.
For the different
demand.
OMCs.
I thought you have a mandate to sit with them and discuss this from them. Because you are the one who supply them, you know what to supply them. You don't have that power?
We look up to our regulator, which is still the ministry, and the minister has done that. She has held a couple of meetings where the OMCs demanding production prices. Maybe you want to talk to that?
Yeah, costs us like a oil company to actually reflect the bonus which UNOC is giving them, but it's also a liberalized environment. So the minister has been engaging them, and we expect more good results in the near future. But we have already sensed that, and we are engaging to make sure that actually they reflect what UNOC gives them. the bonuses that UNOC gives them.
Because I thought that the issue was compliance of operations. PAU also regulating downstream, but majorly not on the price, more on the standards. The standards for,
So in a free market economy, power to government to regulate the prices?
No. So that's why the minister, in all the engagements she has had with OMCs, has been telling them that if they make her wait in vain, she might consider the route of determining prices.
Exactly.
She has been telling them. But director, to your point, the Petroleum Authority currently is the regulator only the upstream and midstream.
Only the upstream.
So pump stations
the downstream.
But if we come up with a policy as you said you consulting, the way team is stating, are we not Engineer One, sorry, Engineer One. Can't we, in a small way, regulate the price?
Okay, the policy of government has always been that we leave it liberal. We don't look at, because I think once you control the price, there are issues of subsidies and all that.
It will come.
It has to come.
We are finalizing new petroleum policy. And I think is either before cabinet or is going to be the
The answer is we've been on a capitalization journey through the ministry. If you realize in the presentation I noticed when I got minister, a lot of our projects are still in the development stage. They have not yet reached maturation to start generating revenues or profits. So because of that, we will say that we are still relying on the Treasury for the funding of mainly our operations, and also for the capitalization of our different equity interests. For example, in the pipeline, in the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, and we've also been receiving some funding for the refinery to fund the early civil works that will be taking place on the refinery. So yes, we are still relying on the Treasury. Of course, there are a few initiatives that have started taking place, such as the soil importation, which is generating some revenue. The plan going forward is that and as other revenue sources open up, that the company can sustainably be able to fund itself in terms of operations. But I think that will be when a lot of the projects start generating revenue.
So you still don't know when you will?
On mandate, part of the income we're generating, we're actually going to remit to the petroleum fund to fund petroleum infrastructures.
Petroleum fund?
Yeah.
There's already policy on petroleum fund?
Yes.
Because we got some advice from Viv to go slow on that. We need to do a lot of benchmarking, because countries like Kenya, they also had petroleum fund. They have struggled with it, and I think it's not working well. We talked about Malaysia also. There were so many countries they named. So I don't know whether you people did the benchmarking and all they were lying to us.
Of the revenue that we shall generate as a company in this business will go to the petroleum fund, and part of it will remain with UNOC to supplement.
Okay.
So mainly for development purposes.
Infrastructure
But
development.
still on your question of drawing funds from
The
Treasury, the palm price is still high. It's because UNOC, because you are saying you are relying on Treasury. You are relying on Treasury. Because they were saying before, the dealers they were dealing with would give them time to sell the fuel, the products, then they pay the dealer. But for you people, cash at delivery. So for them, they end up running to the bank to borrow the money. So all the interest rate that they borrowed, they push it to the palm price. But now if you're relying on the Treasury, You cannot wait the way, you cannot look at the formal agreement these people were working on, that they can deliver the fuel, then after like 3-5 days, they pay later.
So they're basically talking about facility for a credit period.
So we think the structure that was implemented is sort of similar to what was existing when they were importing products through Kenya for a long time, and we did not put any restrictions on them in terms of changing their existing facilities. So we believe, like the acting CEO said, we believe that based on the pricing we are giving them, they should be extending a little bit more benefit to the market in terms of the pump price, but it's a discussion that is ongoing, involving the Honorable Minister as well. I think that is a discussion where they will always say that on their side, the cost of financing or the cost of operations is high. Well, where we sit, we may see things differently.
Their pump prices are still high, and that is one of them. So I think the dialogue we are going to organize will help us sort out some of those issues. Yeah.
We received a cargo for Jet 1 fuel the day before yesterday, and our Kenyan colleagues have refused to offload it, and that also compelled the minister to fly back from Abu Dhabi to be in Kenya today to engage the Kenyan counterparts and see how that can be resolved. So there are still a few bumps in this journey. That is the most recent. The other one was that while we know that our national demand is about 80,000 metric tons of diesel and about also 80,000 metric tons of petrol, we started from a point where our Kenyan colleagues insisted and refused that no, Uganda's demand is a lot smaller. So they allowed us only to bring in 65,000 metric tons for diesel and a lot less for petrol.
But otherwise, we are so grateful for the good work you're doing as a country in terms in oil sector. We are really grateful. When we went to upstream and we saw the kind of work being done, we were so happy with what we saw on the ground. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
This concern they stated was on the issues of quality, that their quality assurance is up to 100%. They don't compromise on quality of their products. Then they were talking of the cost of borrowing to pay for the fuel. Then thirdly, automation of their system, that when you go to their machines, you cannot manipulate the machines. So because of these three issues, it has made their fuel prices not to be stabilized. But contrary information we have got from UNOC, they're saying whatever they're supplying to Vivo should have made the fuel prices to be low. And this has called for dialogue. We need to dialogue on these issues together with UNOC and Vivo, so that we really see how we can harmonize on the issues of fuel prices.
African Crude Oil Pipeline Project, which is being developed as one of the commercialization options for the crude that we produce in the country. So, as a joint venture, we made commitment to develop the projects and have first oil by end of 2025, and that is currently what we are working with. Of course, like any other mega project in the oil and gas industry, there's certainly bound to be issues around project implementation, but we are hopeful that we'll still deliver on our commitment to have first oil by end of 2025. The pump prices for the refined petroleum products, as you may have seen, is getting better from where we picked it up before we started the sole importation mandate. It's reducing. Like we pointed out earlier, we expect that should be a lot lower than where it is. Certainly the mandate of regulating the industry sits with the ministry currently, and we are aware that our Honourable Minister has been engaging the OMCs to ensure that the benefits that UNOC has passed on to them in implementing the sole importation mandate is also reflected in the pump prices. And we are confident that the OMCs are going to, with these engagements, respond, and the pump prices are going to be a lot lower. So we hope to see lower pump prices with those engagements that our sector minister and the current regulator of the sector, that is the Petroleum Supplies Department, is having with the industry, the OMCs. Thank you. I think you must have noticed, or you may have not noticed anything happening in the downstream sector from July, when we picked up and started supplying the entire demand requirement of the country. No complaints. I don't think you have seen any issues of industry in the downstream expressing concerns around supply. So all in all, to say that we have operated it very smoothly, very efficiently, and we continue to carry that commitment to the country that we will supply the whole demand requirements for the country for diesel, petrol, kerosene, jet fuel, even as it grows into the future.
Maybe the last one from me. In terms of percentage, how can you give it to the public when it comes to the construction of the East African Portable Pipeline? Like how far it belongs in terms of percentage?
Okay. The construction of the East African Crude Oil Pipeline project is being done by a special purpose vehicle called the Econ Limited. The Econ Limited is, like I said, a company that has been incorporated with shareholders, Total Energies with the highest shareholding, UNOC and TPDC, Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation, holding an equal shareholding of 15%, and CNOC holding 8%. So while as a shareholder, we know that the construction of the pipeline is moving smoothly, with, of course, some project surprises notwithstanding, but we believe that we will deliver the pipeline within the time that we have committed. But in terms of more detailed update on the pipeline, by way of providing information, I want to request that the best entity to speak to is ECOP Limited, which is all of us, the four. And I don't want to speak for ECOP Limited. Yes.
Is to regulate especially the issues of the quality and the setup of the business the downstream. We don't intend to go ahead and then regulate the pump prices. The pump prices, as the CEO has said, that we are first, we want to first allow the liberalization, the downstream to play its own selves, such that demand and supply manages the prices. But at the same time also, the ministry will continue having a dialogue with the oil marketing. going to tell us when to expire.
November last year for the installation work to begin. And as we speak now, we have now received up to 700 kilometers of line pipe of the 1,443. And that really speaks to the progress of the construction works. So in terms of overall progress, Honourable Minister, the construction of the Eco pipeline currently stands at 35.9% as of end of September. And although we are seeing some delays, our hands are still on to ensure that we achieve ready for startup by Q4 2025. The next slide. The next slide speaks to the refinery project, and just to, again, refinery is our second commercialization option for the crude that will be produced from the upstream. It will have a capacity of 60,000 barrels of oil per day. A lot of work has gone into developing the refinery, and as you may be aware, Honourable Minister, the refinery configuration was approved by Cabinet, and the refinery is meant to be a scheduled, what we call a scheduled fuel catalytic cracker. We had a project framework agreement that we were using to develop the refinery. Unfortunately, that agreement expired in June 2023. And subsequent to that expiry, the government engaged other developers, and as we speak now, we have an MOU with Alpha MBM from Dubai to develop the refinery. Some of the work that have been completed in respect to the refinery development included front-end engineering design that was completed by the previous developer before the project framework agreement expired. We also completed the environmental impact assessment that was due for submission to NEMA. We are also working on what we call a water abstraction facility. The refinery requires a lot of water for heating, for cooling purposes, and so the water will be abstracted from the Albert at a place called Mbego. And so the work around the abstraction, the water abstraction pipeline corridor and the settlement action planning for the purposes ongoing. So in terms of development, Honourable Minister, with the new developer, Alpha MBM, we are currently negotiating the shareholders agreement for the refinery. We're also negotiating the implementation agreement that is meant to guide the construction of the pipeline. And in addition to those two, we're also negotiating the crude supply agreement between the upstream suppliers, Total, Sinop, and UNOC in the upstream, and the refinery developer. We intend to kick off early works for the refinery once we have closed off some of the key elements in the commercial discussion we're having with the Alpha MBM and some technical studies. And in terms of outlook, we target to take final investment decision for the refinery, especially by the private sector player in 2025, which is next year. And we intend to hold 40% interest as a company and as a country in this pipeline, and the 60% will be held by the private sector player. We have done some macroeconomic study on the impact of the refinery, and that is the highlight you see on the right corner there. The impact is huge. The study was supported by Stanbic Bank, and what we see is that the refinery standalone from the other petrochemical industries that will emerge out of this project will have up to about $3.4 billion in GDP impact, national capital formation impact of 8.3 billion, certainly a lot of employment, up to 32,000 estimated currently, and of course, importantly, the annual balance of payment impact relating to the import of petroleum products in the country of up to 591 million. So it's a very important project for us as a country, as a company, the refinery. The next slide.